Well, welcome to This Old Lemon. My name is Nick, the host, and today we are going to be working on the slide floor. We are set to be leaving for the summer next week. I took the vinyl flooring off and I see this part of rot right here. See that? Oh, there's some rot. There's water getting down in there. There's a spot, a squishy spot right here. That's pretty squishy, and just so happens to be a speaker right out there. Guessing that's where that water's coming from. Otherwise, it's pretty solid all the way around. Now, the reason why I looked into this is because this slide has never really worked right. I've replaced the motor over here. This side doesn't come in the same as that side. And so I was looking underneath, and the roller, because of this rotted wood, the roller's being pushed up into the wood. One of the problems with these BAL slides is that they put these pretty small rollers on here that are supposed to help this thing come in when you slide it in. But this is just a massive slide. To me, it's like they're not building them properly, or they're not building them in a way that will make it last. I guess that's the whole problem with the RV industry as a whole. It's they don't really put longevity into these RVs. They basically build them to use them for 4 to 5 to 6 years and then have them be thrown away. I don't really like that, and I think a lot of people don't when they spend good money on an RV and have it 4 years later, when they still might be making payments on it, have it fall apart. Here's what I've done so far. Just kind of prepping to remove the floor, so I had to cut all those wires out. So that one's 120 right there. And this is just a bunch of stuff. There's some 12 volts and a bunch of speakers in there. I just already pushed that through. That's the only thing that's running in this slide. So now I got to go underneath there and unscrew all of the screws that go all around the corner. And then when I think this thing is starting to come on its way out, I'll figure out what I'm going to do to jack this whole slide up. So if you can see right there, that's where all the weight's being carried right there. So it's like pushing up the plywood there. Over here, it's kind of a different story. This all looks good. And it's like resting where it should be. So when I start to take this plywood out, I'm going to have to figure out where am I going to put the weight. And I'm thinking I'm going to put some stilts back there and just kind of push up on that. The cable should hold the slide from moving in and out. But I need to, jack it up and get some space so I can put that new board in. And then I'm going to let you know what I'm doing. That's going to be different. It's going to be a little different. I hope you like it. Check this out. So in my mind, this is a pretty major problem for these slides. These slides are really heavy. So in order to help these slides go in and out, they have these rollers here that have like a big rubber bushing in it. Now if you look there, you can see that it's already cracked. This one I replaced just about a month and a half ago because the ones they had in here were half the size. They were only this big, and that one was like totally chewed up and busted up. It's just too much weight for these blocks. So the idea is when this comes out and it goes down that little slope, this is going to compress, and this right now is in a compressed state. And so if you look, I think maybe you can see a little bit of daylight through there, maybe not, but it's not quite resting on the bar back here, this little slide bar. That's supposed to be taking a lot of the weight, and so right now this wheel thing is taking a lot of weight, and then maybe a little bit of weight back there. But the idea is when you pull this in, it's going to go up that slope on the floor, and then this is going to rise up too to try to help it slide in. When it snaps back up, it doesn't provide enough force pushing up to actually have this roller do anything, which is why you'll see at the other end, you'll see like just a bunch of wearing going on down here because this is just being rubbed against that bar, which is what it's supposed to do. That bar is there for a reason, and that's one of the reasons why I selected such smooth plywood, so I can get the same type of sliding across that I could get with this, because I'm not going to be putting this plastic back on the bottom of the slide. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some helper rollers here to allow it to carry the weight a little more evenly, so this thing can be pulled in much easier. So I'll tell you kind of how I go about doing that. But now I'm going to take out the slide. Wow, that's all wet. Yeah, see, I just don't understand that. The only saving grace to this side was this membrane that they put on here. And I don't know if there wasn't any over there. It's like a piece of tape. But these things just kind of blow my mind. These are like, it's like a bowl to catch the water. Water goes right in there, just sits there. And they have a strip right here that holds it right there. So you can see how much water is in here. And it's like dripping on my leg. It's just unbelievable. Ready?
Yeah. I'm joking.
That's the floor. All right, here's what we got so far. Got the jack right here. It's not a whole bunch of weight on there, and so it's working pretty well as far as that goes. But I got the floor kind of pushed out, so I'm gonna go in here and see if I can maybe just pull it out this way. It's kitty wampus, you know. Just like that. Now I'm gonna tell you what I'm doing here. Okay, so I got the floor totally out, put it outside, let it bake for a little bit. I don't think it's a piece of plastic at all. It's just a very, very thin piece of rubber cover. I think it is maybe a sprayed on piece of rubber portion, right? And so that's kind of what I was thinking about doing. So I'll get to that in a second. But I want to show you kind of the floor. And this is upside down. Like this, and I just flopped it over. So this part is the part that goes into the camper. We'll take a look at this, right? So look at this slope. We're going to talk about this slope here. Let's go inside and I'll show you what that does. To demonstrate, I have this board here that has a slope on it, okay? All right, so it's almost the same thickness too. So now picture that floorboard, okay? Picture this being the floorboard, okay? Of course it's longer than this, but it's up here like so, okay? And when it's in, it's resting and rubbing on this board right here, okay? It's coming across, comes out like this, and then when it goes down, the whole weight of the slide goes like this, okay? It slides down, and that's how you have the floor that's pretty close to the other floor, depending on where they have the stops on the slide. It may get to this part right here, and then so you just have your linoleum that just goes right over there, and you have a pretty flat floor, which is pretty cool. Now, the problem comes where you have this really heavy slide, and you want to bring it in. All of a sudden, you hit the slide in button, and it goes, and then when it gets to this part right there, it goes, and then it finally slides nice, right? So this initial pull, it's got to pull all the weight right up on top there. Now, what they're hoping for is these rollers to give a little bit of help, okay? That's why they put this big bushing in here. These bushings are supposed to like push up for you and pull it in. Now, this one's already breaking. I just put this in not that long ago. You see it's already cracking right there. So I think this whole design is just not very good because after a little while, these rubber bushings will just break and then there's not enough force for it to push up in order to help really pull the slide in. The majority of the weight falls right here because that's where your wall is and it's pushing down on this really hard. This much contact with the slide, and then to me that's just not enough. Like, it needs a lot more. Now, how would I fix this? If I still wanted the floor to come down like this, like that, what I would do to fix this is to add more of these here so it has a little bit more weight, so when it, so that it can kind of equalize the load across. So the only problem with that is I don't have a bunch of these, and the fact that the more of these you add, the bushings are they have so much force that it may actually keep the slide from coming down. So it might just like stay up like this because I've added more of these. So in my opinion, it makes for a slide system that's like kind of prone to fail after a certain amount of time anyway, just because of the fact that these bushings will wear out and not have enough force. So then what's happening is that your slide mechanisms and the chains and the slide cables and all of that and the motors are taking the brunt of the force to move in the slide. Now, I think with people just go and camp maybe 3 or 4 times a season and they bring their slides out like 6 to 8 times, it's not going to be a big deal. But for me, I'm going to bring these slides in 3 or 4 times a day, maybe. If we're doing overnight stop and all that stuff. So we're bringing this slide in all the time. So it really bothered me that it had to work so hard, and I had to run it a bunch because one side would go in more faster than the other side. It was just a problem for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace these all together, and I'm going to get rid of the slope. So basically, picture it like this. So it's going to be running on here, and I'm going to use some different rollers that I got from BAL. These rollers people have been installing on the mid portions of their slide, and in order to help it. Now, I do think it will help it a little bit when you add these in there, but the center part of the slide doesn't carry much weight at all. All the weight is like over here. But these, I do think, will help when you add them. I would probably add it here, and then at the other end, and then maybe one down the middle. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to not have the slant, right? So just kind of ignore this for a second. It's going to be flat, and it's going to stay up here the whole time. So it's not going to come down. It's just going to be here. Now, what that'll mean is that I'll have a little bit of a lip here. So this lip plus this lip will be like an 1.5 inch lip into the slide area. I'm not really bothered by that, because what I really like is that the fact that when I have the slide out and then I hit slide in, it's going to just roll right in without much resistance at all. It should make the slide mechanisms, the motors, and all of that stuff last a whole bunch longer. So I don't need the pushing. What I'm going to do is just put these rollers here. I'm going to have one here. I'm actually going to put 2 at this end. I'll show you right here. So here's the current roller. I'm going to replace that with one here so that it catches the full weight of the slide. Then I'm going to put one right here to help offset some of the weight here, because this will help, take a little bit of the weight off of that. Then I will add a couple more here and then way at the end. I'm not going to put one in the middle because there's not much weight being carried there. And I have to etch this out. So I got to etch this plastic part down, and this roller is going to provide just a little bit higher roll over this plastic part right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go cut the floor, and then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with that to keep it from rotting like this, okay? Okay, the weight is off the jacks. See what the problem is? I do. There's daylight in there. These rollers are too big. These rollers are for 3/4 inch strips. That must be a 1/2 inch strip. So that's why I did not put any screws in the top. So I could replace these. Probably will end up replacing them at some point. But I'm gonna go inside now, see if you can tell that I'm on the floor. Alright, now I'm gonna melt it with a lighter. It doesn't look bad, right? Looks pretty good. Okay, I gotta show you something real quick. I'm working with these slides. Look at this. I don't know if you can tell. Look at the angle at which this is. True, I guess this is supposed to fall down. Ah, it's supposed to go down 1 inch. That's why. All right, guys, I did it. I am one of those guys now. I did it. I put bolts all the way through for the slide. But look at this thing. It's like, I watched the tension video for these BAL slides, and it says you got to put a lot of tension on that bottom cable, you know, 1/4 inch deflection. So I watched him, and then he had like some kind of a pound thing on there, and I was like, man, he's putting a lot of, he's like banjo string, boom, boom. I was like, all right. So I loaded it up, but not as much as I think he did, and it would pull away. So I was like, all right, I got to do something. So I put these bolts in to go through the whole wall, and it kind of looks like it's pulling it back a little bit, but either way, it is sliding in much better now. All right, I think the job is just about done. It's about 7 o'clock or so. Took a full day. All right, so I put the strip back on, and I just loaded it with some silicone. And so also, I didn't put that black channel back on because I didn't want the water to get stuck in the channel. So right here, this is the that rubber spray paint that makes a door float. Flex Seal. Yeah, that's what it is, Flex Seal. Didn't have enough to really go all the way through. Someday I'll probably spray the whole thing, but not really worried about it at this point in time. But I want the rain to run over this thing and then drip down. I debated almost not even putting the strip back on, but I thought, well, I don't want this to delaminate at all, so I'm going to go ahead and just goop it like crazy so that no rain will get behind it. So rain will come around it and then drip off the side, but right off the floor, so it's not going to touch the floor. But then I'm going to be able to tell if the floor is getting wet at all, right? So I'll be able to look at it. Also, I have the carpet upstairs, so I stapled the carpet down, but not on the edge, so I can pull it up and check it out every now and then, right? So there's my Flex Seal right on the top there, and I can just check, hey, how's it going? I got the slide retensioned and everything, and it sounds as good as it will sound, right? So the slide, this motor still kind of makes a weird sound, but that motor's brand new. I do have a replacement for this one, just in case something happens. All right, hey guys, Nick here with a live update. We're going through this video, and I just wanted to let you know how the floor is working. Okay, so for the most part, the floor is working great. So you can see over there, I added all those rollers. The floor is nice and dry. The only problem we're running into is right here. Right, so the floor is starting to peel a little bit down here. Now it's not, I don't think it's water related. I just think it's like losing its first layer. Just rained, and it seems, you know, dry. It's not wet, but it only happens right there. So I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna do about it. I mean, maybe it is water related. Oh, I know. Let's go take a look inside. All right. So, it doesn't look like there's any water there. All right, everything. So that black is the spray paint that I put on there, and everything looks okay. Doesn't look like there's any like big water spots or anything. You can see here, nothing's really discolored. Everything looks okay. So there's a little chip out of here, but it doesn't feel wet at all. Okay, so other than that spot underneath that's flaking apart a little bit, and I just spray painted it yesterday. Let me show you how it looks today. It's got a nice little layer of rubber paint on it, and we'll see how that handles. But from what I can see, everything is dry, everything is good. And how does it roll? That's the question. So let me show you the lip inside. So the biggest change for this slide was the fact that we added the lip, that we did not have it go down into the floor anymore, so that when this brings in, it comes in nice and easily. So here's the lip that we have. Because we use carpet, it doesn't really make that big of a difference to us, really, because you don't really walk on it, right? You just kind of sit on it, and that's it. You can come to the table and everything. But the biggest difference for me is right here. See how it's coming in? It's coming in easily, sliding in very nicely. So that was the biggest thing for me. So the slide has worked really well ever since we got this done. So now one thing I did mention in the video that I didn't really talk about was the fact that I had to move these brackets. And I mentioned that I bolted it through the floor, but I didn't actually mention that I had to lower them because of the fact that I changed the slide to not slide into the floor. Now because it sits up all the time, I had to lower these down or else this wire would just be way too crooked and it would rub a little too hard on there. I think by doing this, it actually made this big slide work okay with the cable slide system. Now I know the next year of the Valor, they don't have cable slides in for the main slide, so I think they figured it out. So if you have a Valor or a similar camper that has a giant slide that has the cables on it and your slide's not working very well, this might be something that you look into. It wasn't too bad of a project. One thing I did not get on video was how many people it took to actually get the floor up in there, but we got it in, screwed it in, everything is good. So anyway, let me know if you have any questions on this. I'll be glad to answer as best I possibly can. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.